Welcome back, folks, to Bucephalus Mind Part 3. And again, I apologize for this one, a little bit delayed, but better late than never. I was actually trying to deliver or submit my health coin research, graduate research study for the George Washington University, and developing a cryptocurrency as a replacement for healthcare insurance. As you all know, we're fraught with problems in healthcare, but I'm aiming to try to address that with the George Washington Research health coin study. So anyway, now that that's submitted, part 1 submitted, I'm trying to develop that into part 2, or another part of that series. As you can see, I like to sequence things out, like this Bucephalus Mind series. So anyway, we'll talk about that. But anyway, for this Bucephalus Mind part 3, assuming that you successfully completed the minor builds for 1 and 2, the third part of this series will be how to overclock, and you'll only need 2 things for this, assuming you've again completed your minor build as instructed. One, a 32 gigabyte to 64 gigabyte flash drive. That will be necessary. I got a SanDisk here, a USB 3.0. That's ideal. USB 2.0 would be great too, but 3.0 would be great. Again, I'd probably aim for 32 gigabytes on that one for the download of Microsoft Windows. For the second part, you'll need a Windows 10 license key. You can get that on Amazon. You can get that at Micro Center. You can also get it at a couple other vendors. I'll list on the gist provided below this YouTube screencast here. And how I plan to do this one, we'll break off, we'll sequence again or segue into a couple parts of these of part 3. We'll end here. I'll stop yakking here in a little bit. And then we'll go down to the Bucephalus Mind shaft, as you've seen where we've been before. And I will sit you all shotgun with me on the DSLR. It's going to be a little interesting to see how we can do this. In order to install, as you saw me before with y'all, we did the EthOS install. I couldn't screencast or do screen flick on that, but I'm going to try and do the screencast after we install Windows down there. So anyway, it'll all stitch up nicely here. Hopefully, as you all have seen before, I can do a pretty good, decent job with Final Cut Pro. But anyway, that's what we'll plan to do. We'll get started here. Probably another hour, I'd anticipate. And I'm going to try and do every single card with you, every GPU. We'll go into strapping the cards to overclock the cards. But anyway, the GPUs. But we'll see what we can do. I might just do 1. I might do 8. You'll get the point after I do 1. So anyway, but we'll try to do the whole thing cradle to grave, and that'll be it. After I wrap up this series, again, there'll be an ending part of this segment here. I'm hoping to segue this into some sort of a weekly podcast talking about the cryptocurrencies and what I'm doing with my health coin research at George Washington. So anyway, let's get started. Hope you all enjoy this third part of the tutorial. Thank you. All right, folks, before we head down to the Bucephalus Mind shaft, we need to do a few things. The first thing we need to do is download Windows 10 and then burn that ISO file onto the thumb drive, which I was referencing earlier. It is now plugged into the back of my iMac. We're going to do this 2 ways. There's more than one way to skin a cat here, and we're going to start with 2 ways to do it in Mac, and then 2 ways to do it from Windows. It's actually easier in Windows, again, go figure, but that's Mac for you. And with that in mind, it's actually kind of funny that, gone are the days of downloading or installing a copy of Windows from a DVD onto your computer. It was much easier to do back in the day, but it's actually a little more tricky now with burning ISO files onto thumb drives and the like. So let's go ahead and get started. On the left over here, I'm going to refer to this as the gist. It'll be updated and released, and there'll be instructions on what to do here, exactly how we're going to proceed before we go down to begin the overclocking tutorial. So let's go ahead and do a few things first. I've already plugged in the USB drive in the back of my Mac, so I'm presuming you guys are going to go ahead and do the same thing. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and hit Command Spacebar and type in disk utility, and we're going to format that hard drive for the tutorial here. So I'm going to hit Command Spacebar, then I hit disk utility, and now I'm referring to that USB drive. I'm hoping most of you all can figure that out. You can see external here. There should be a USB hard drive, whatever you're using. It could be a 16 gigabyte. All you'll need is 16 to 32. 16 gigabytes fine. I think the ISO file is actually 4 gigabytes, so you'll be more than fine with a 16 gigabyte hard drive, a thumb drive, and a 32 gigabyte. That'll be more than enough. I don't know why I said that earlier, but anyway, it's probably overkill, and I'm used to that. So anyway, let's go ahead and hit erase, and we'll go ahead and select the name of it. I'm going to call this Apple-U for the UNetbooten part of this tutorial, and I'm going to format it for MS-DOS 32. That's how you do that. You hit erase. Okay. So it'll erase and it'll be good to go. So that's already formatted for MS-DOS FAT32. Okay. The next thing we're going to do on this tutorial is we're going to download Windows 10. The next part of this is going to that. There'll be a link here that says go to the Windows Download 10 page. That's that link right there. But again, this will be nicely formatted once it's released. It'll point you over to this page here to download Windows 10, the ISO file. On the drop-down menu over here to select edition, we're going to select Windows 10. Okay, hit confirm. And we're going to be prompted to select a language, select English. Assuming most of you are doing English, or if you're going to talk another language, use another language. And then Windows 10, the English edition, I'm going to hit 64-bit download, okay? So now that download is going to begin. That's going directly to my download file folder. So that'll probably take about 5 to 10 minutes for me. I've got a fiber connection. Could take about 20 minutes for you. What I'm going to do here is pause, and we'll show you how to proceed with the rest of the tutorial here. I want to make sure that I do this from cradle to grave because it's a little tricky, again, getting Windows 10 installed from a USB drive. Again, I just want to make sure everybody knows what they're doing. So let's go ahead and pause here, and I'll pick up once this is finished downloading. Folks, now that that is completed, the download, it's about almost 5 gigabytes. The next thing you want to do is just take that download and then just stick it on your desktop. Make this nice and easy for everybody. That's the ISO file, approximately 5 gigabytes. So I'm going to slide this over, okay? The next thing we're going to do, and again, this will be referenced on that gist. It'll be updated nice and neat for everybody. It's downloading the UNetbooten. You'll click on the UNetbooten link. Again, this will be sequenced, nice and neat. It'll point you over here to download the UNetbooten. So go ahead and download the UNetbooten tool, okay? I'll pull up the download folder again just for the sake of thoroughness and ease over here, okay? That's the UNetbooten tool. It's a zip file. Just go ahead and double click it. Okay. All right. And then that folder will be, it'll be unzipped and ready to go. I've already done this. So what you're going to do next is just grab that and stick it in your applications folder. That's what I'd recommend doing. I've already done this before, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it. And in fact, I'm going to delete it because I don't want to mess anything up here. I've already got an instance in my applications folder. I'm going to slide this over, exit out of that window. Okay. I'll hit Command Spacebar. And again, assuming you just did what I did, you dragged and dropped the UNetbooten app into the applications folder. I'm going to hit Command Spacebar and pull up UNetbooten. Enter in your system password if it's prompting you for that. Okay, so we've got the UNetbooten tool ready to go. Before we proceed with this, pull up your terminal. That's Command Spacebar. Just hit Command Spacebar and then terminal. That's what you're going to want. It'll pull up like so over here to the right. I already had it open. Then you're going to want to do one thing here. So we're going to go ahead and reference here to UNetbooten. We'll hit disk image ISO, okay? And we're going to pick up the path where we dragged and dropped that Windows 10 file. Click on the icon here. We'll select desktop, okay? And then we're going to select that ISO file, the Windows file we dragged and dropped. Remember, it's over here. I'm going to hit open, okay? And we're going to have to find the identifier for that file. It should already pull up on disk S3S1, but to confirm that, we'll use disk the disk util list command. Just type in disk util list. Again, I'll provide that on the gist here, but then hit enter. And as you can see, that disk we formatted the USB drive that I formatted with you all a few moments ago. It says Apple-U. The disk identifier is 3S1. So go ahead and reference that. It's already ready to go for us. So hit OK. Okay. Now this should take approximately 30 minutes. Once this is complete, Um, it'll say, complete, ready to go, as it said, installation complete. Once this is complete, I'm going to pause it now, but once it's complete, I'm going to try and show everyone how to do this just straight from the command line, like we did with on one of the demonstrations with Bucephalus Mind 2. I'll show you how to do it from the command line. Of all the methodologies I've tried here, that's probably the most wonky, and I wouldn't and not reliable. But if I find a better method, I'll be sure to provide that within the gist. So hold tight right now for me. I'm going to go ahead and pause. I'll come back here, and we'll show everyone how to do this within Mac from the command line. After that's complete, we'll do both. We'll do two more methodologies within Windows. I have my instance ready to go over here. So I'll show you everyone how to do that from Windows. But once I show everyone how to do this from a Mac or a Windows, we'll head downstairs. We'll do the Bucephalus Mind tutorial and go from there for the overclocking. So hang tight here, folks. We'll be ready to go. See here, the installation is now complete. You can go ahead and hit exit and then take the thumb drive out of your Mac. And then the next transition, I will demonstrate how to do this from the command line. Again, I wouldn't exactly advise it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it for the sake of thoroughness here. So stand by. We'll transition into the next segment. Thanks. All right, folks, before we proceed over to the Windows 10 demonstration, we'll go over how to do this from the terminal if you're so inclined. I wouldn't advise it. It's been a little wonky for me, but in any case, I'll go ahead and include this, and it will be clarified within the gist provided in a separate segment. Once again, it'll be updated for release. So anyway, the first command you'll enter in the terminal. You click Command Spacebar Terminal, and that'll give you the terminal window here. But one thing I would like to do is go ahead and wipe that USB drive and do this from the very beginning. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is unplug that USB drive from the back of my Mac and reinsert it. That should be ready to go now. And I'm going to hit Command Spacebar. And I'm going to select Disk Utility. And we'll go ahead and wipe that. I'm going to try that one more time. There we go. And we will go ahead and wipe that. Erase. Same deal here. I'm going to call this Apple-T just for this tutorial. And we'll select the format will be MS-DOS. And I'm going to select the scheme will be master boot record. Okay. And then I'm going to hit erase. Okay, now that device, that USB, should be good to go. The first thing I'm going to do is find the identifier for that Apple-T, that USB drive that we're going to be using for this burn. So enter in disk util list. I copied and pasted that command over here in the terminal. And then I hit disk util list. And again, for the terminal, just hit Command Spacebar and type in terminal. That's it. I'll pull up like so over here. Again, copy and paste that command over here. Disk util list to find the Apple-T device or USB drive. Okay, that one should be right here. It looks like Apple-T. The identifier is 3S1, so note that. The next thing we'll do here is we will copy and paste this command, okay, the sudo disk util unmount /dev / the disk. And the disk number in this instance, again, it says disk 3S1. So I'm going to type in disk 3S1 since it corresponds to that identifier right here. As you can see, it may be different for you, but whatever your device name is, it'll come with an identifier, an assigned identifier. It says disk 3S1. Let's go ahead and type that in to unmount it. Enter in your system password if it's prompting you, as it should, because that's for sudo. Okay, so now that disk is now unmounted. The next thing we do is we copy and paste the file path, the command for burning the ISO, wherever that is, with the following. So assuming that you didn't touch the ISO file name and that your ISO file name corresponds to the one right here, as it should, we're going to go ahead and do this. So we're going to copy and paste this entire command. Okay. But the first thing I'm going to do is copy up into the / there. And then I'm going to type in my username. My username is Alexander J. Singleton. I'm not really sure what yours is, but it will be different, whatever your Mac username is. See, it corresponds. So that Mac username should be right there. Whatever that is for you. Mine says Alexander J. Singleton. It should be the same for you. So enter in your Mac username there, then hit /. And then we'll hit desktop. I'm going to, since it's already on the desktop, assuming that's where your ISO file is, as I instructed earlier, copy and paste that entire thing up into the / prefacing the disk ID. So I'm going to copy and paste that. And okay, so this is, pay attention to that part, disk 4. It says disk 4 here. The identifier for that corresponding device for me is disk 4. I'm sorry, disk 3, not disk 4. So that'll change for whatever it is for you. You type that in. So for me, it's disk 3. And again, I don't pay attention to this. I copied and pasted that for the sake of example. For you, it'll be different. I'll try to clarify that within the gist over here. So type in disk 3. Okay. So for me, I typed in disk 3. Now this should take about 49 minutes. That's what I clocked it at last night when I tried it from the command line. And again, I would not advise this method. It's been a little wonky. It hasn't been as reliable as doing it with unetbooten with the previous methodology we tried. So I just wanted to include this for the sake of thoroughness before we transition into the next segment, which will be doing the same thing for the Windows 10 folks. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and say, look, if it's after you waited 49 minutes, there should be a blank command line. It'll just say, it'll basically say something like this, like your terminal window will be ready to go for another command. But don't leave this window as is, and just let it go until for at least a good hour. Then come back and check on your Mac and see what happens. Again, I wouldn't advise this method. So I'm going to go ahead and call it quits on this transition, and then we'll go ahead and slide into the next segment, which will be from the Windows 10. All right, folks, let's go ahead and proceed with the Windows 10 edition of how to prepare, I guess, our miner for an install of Microsoft Windows 10. So what I'm going to do now here is pull up my little sandbox environment here for it's Windows 10. So just pretend like this is your Windows 10 computer if you're using Windows 10 and you're not using Mac like I just demonstrated in the other tutorial. So again, pretend like you are a Windows 10 user and I'm showing you how to do this from your Windows 10 desktop. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take my USB thumb drive. I'm going to plug it in to my instance over here, my little sandbox. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and select connect to Windows. Disregard this because most folks out there won't have that prompt. So it's going to automatically prompt me to format the disk. I'm going to hit format disk. And I'm going to select FAT32. Okay, that should be good to go. And it should default it to, again, it's drive E. Pay attention to what drive that is. It says format USB, whatever USB device you're using, whatever you insert into your Microsoft Windows 10 edition, pay attention to that, the directory. It's drive E for me. So hit start, and it's going to format. Okay. Okay, so it's formatted. So the next thing I'm going to do, and again, this will be segmented in that gist over here, like so. Again, remember, it'll be nice and neat for Windows 10 folks. It essentially will prompt you to go to this link. Just type in Windows 10 download. If I can type. And we're going to use the Windows 10 tool. Okay. So I'm going to hit download tool now. Okay. Then once it's finished downloaded, I'll double click it. I'm just going to hit yes. Okay. And the tool will begin to load. Okay. So it'll say get a few things ready. And again, this will probably take some time here. We're going to do there are two types of ways to do this. More than one way to skin a cat. We're going to go ahead and try the Windows 10, the Windows tool method. It'll automatically download from the internet to the USB drive we just inserted. And then we'll try the other method, which will be downloading the ISO file like we did with the Mac, but we're going to download the ISO file to the desktop on Windows over here, and then we're going to burn it over manually. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit accept. Okay. And again, this will take a few minutes. Again, gone are the days of being able to just install this from a DVD like it is over. It says upgrade this PC now. No, I'm going to hit create installation media from a USB flash drive. It's going to be. I'm going to hit next. So hit that create installation media USB flash drive DVD or ISO file for another PC. Okay, next. Okay, I'm going to select English. That's the right edition. Windows 10. We want the 64-bit architecture. Okay, hit next. And in this instance, we're going to go ahead and try USB flash drive for this demonstration. I'll do it again with the ISO file edition after this USB flash drive edition. So hit next. Okay. Remember what I said? Pay attention to that directory label. It was E for me. So whatever it was for you, make sure that corresponds to the label for the USB drive of your device. I'm going to hit next. Okay, and it says progress 0%. Now this should take probably about, I don't know, again, 30 minutes or so. I'm going to let this download. I'm going to pause it, and then I'll come back just to wrap everything up with everybody for the sake of thoroughness and completion. So I'm going to pause it now, and then I'll come back. Again, hang tight. This will probably take about 30 minutes to download depending on your connection speed. I have fiber, so it's going to take me faster. So it could be up to an hour for some folks. I'm not really sure how long, but anyway, for me, it's about 30 minutes. So hang tight. I'm going to pause it now, and in a few seconds, it'll be completed, and we'll proceed. All right, folks, that was for the Mac OS folks. But if you want to do it from Windows, if you're a Windows 10 user, if you're not, I will show you how to do that from Windows 10. Much easier to do to burn or make a copy of Windows from Windows than it is from Mac, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go ahead and try this again from my Mac here. It worked before, but I wanted to try something else. That's why you saw that window. So anyway, don't worry about it. Disregard that, please. Take your USB drive, stick it into your Windows 10 device. Okay. And then disregard this flag here. That's only coming up because I've got a sandbox instance running with VMware. I'm going to go ahead and select Connect to Windows. And again, it should just automatically prompt you for Windows after you insert a USB drive into your Windows device. So I'm going to hit Format Disk. Should prompt that. I'm going to select FAT32. That it should be default. I'm going to hit Start. Should be erase everything on that USB device. Format complete. Okay. If for whatever reason it didn't, just go to disk format. I'll show you how to do that here. Type in format disk. Then all you would do is take whatever device that it appears to be. In my case, it was a 32 gigabyte hard drive or flash drive. I would select the E directory, right click that, and then hit format. Again, FAT32 file system format, and I hit OK. And then again, it's the same deal, but except that was automatically prompted from the start. So that should be ready, good to go now. Okay, so this link will be provided within that gist over here. And again, this will be nice and pretty printed upon release. Pull up your browser. I'm just going to pull up Chrome within my Microsoft instance there. And I'm going to type in download Windows tool, download Windows 10. And that's the one you want. Download Windows 10 disk image ISO file. I'll provide a direct link within that gist. Okay. And I'm going to select download tool now. Okay. And then once that's finished downloading, I'm going to double click that and access that executable. I'm going to hit yes. Okay. I'll exit out of this window and minimize it. Getting a few things ready. It appears to be. And again, this install, whenever you burn an ISO file onto any device, it takes some time, especially a 4 to 5 gigabyte file like the Windows 10 installation files. It could take up to 30 minutes, maybe even an hour, depending on your connection speed. So once that's finished, scroll down to the bottom, acknowledge all of these points, hit accept. Really no other choice. Okay, I'm going to select the second radio button here, create installation media, USB, flash drive, DVD, or ISO file. We're first going to do it from the flash drive, and then I'll show you a second methodology within Windows to download the ISO file, the raw file directly, and then we can burn it on to the Mac. I'm sorry, to the thumb drive. But first, we'll do the USB flash drive directly with the tool, the Microsoft download tool. So hit next, create installation media. Select the language. For me, it's default. It's going to be English. The edition will be Windows 10, and the architecture will be 64-bit. Excellent. Default. Next. And then choose which media to use. Choose the first radio button here, USB flash drive. In this segment, we'll do USB flash drive first, and again, we'll do ISO file second. But first, we'll do it from the USB flash drive directly. So hit next, or onto the USB flash drive directly. Hit next. And then remember that label for that directory, for that flash drive. For me, it was E. That's why I said pay attention in the beginning to wherever you formatted it. So for me, it was E. That's the E volume. Next. Okay, now this could take up to an hour. It'll be some staging to this. It'll progress from 0 to 100%, and there'll be another sequence of something else. But for now, I'm going to pause it, and once all of that's finished, there should be a prompt to do next. But just hang tight. There'll be a couple of stages here. It'll progress from 0 to 1%, probably 2 to 3 times in stages. But again, I'm going to pause it, and then I'll come back, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So hang tight for a few minutes, probably up to 30 minutes, maybe even an hour for some folks. But let this download and burn onto the thumb drive. And then once it's all finished progressing here, you'll hit next. But I will rejoin you before you need to hit next. So bear with me, pause for a second. I'll be back in a few minutes. All right, folks, after that, you should be completed, ready to go after you go through that stage of the tutorial. I will do an ISO download for demonstration in the next segment. So that'll complete the Windows 10 edition download for Windows. Follow me into the next segment. Thanks. All right, folks, you should be good to go after the Windows 10 media creation tool download with for the ISO file directly to the USB drive. However, if that media creation tool gave you any bit of trouble and you encountered an error message, there is a second option, and my mantra for everything is always have a plan B. So in option B, we will be using that same media creation tool, but we'll be downloading the ISO file directly from Microsoft, and then we're going to take that ISO file and we're going to burn it on to the USB drive once again, but we're using the Rufus tool for Windows instead of Unabooten. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to go ahead and format the USB drive as we did before. Okay. And discard that message because this is just a sandbox environment once again. Okay, and I'm going to format that disk by typing in format disk in that search bar to pull up the disk formatter within Windows. Okay, and then I'm going to select that directory. It's apparently directory E. It has 30 gigabytes of memory on there. Format it. Make sure it's FAT32. Default's new volume is the name for it. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And we're good. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of the disk formatter. Next, what I'm going to do here is go to the download folder because that's where I downloaded that Microsoft creation tool within Windows. So I'm going to pull that up. Media creation tool. Should be something named similar to something like that within your download folder, wherever you downloaded that file to in your Windows desktop. This may take a few minutes. And I've tested both of these methods within Windows as well. I did get the media creation tool to burn directly on the ISO files within the media creation client here the first time around, but the second time around, I couldn't get it for this demonstration, which prompted me to demonstrate the ISO file download to burn it with Rufus. So I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. Same deal here, same prompts. We're going to select something else here momentarily once it prompts. While that's downloading, I don't want to confuse anybody yet. Yeah, while that's prompting, okay, yeah, there we go. Create media. I'm going to select create installation media, USB flash drive. Hit next. Same prompts here, language, English, edition, Windows 10, architecture 64-bit, okay? Then I'm going to select, instead of USB flash drive, I'm going to select ISO file, and I'm going to download that directly to the desktop. It really doesn't matter where you download it from, just make sure you remember where you put it. So actually, I'll leave it in downloads. I'll leave it in the downloads folder. So I'm going to call it Windows 10, and that file is going to be downloaded to the downloads folder. I'm going to call it Windows 10. I'm going to hit save, and it should download here. This download should take approximately, 5 to 15 minutes, depending on your connection speed, maybe up to 30. But as long as you see a progress here, you're good. So what's happening here is you're essentially downloading the Windows 10 core files to the download folder of your desktop. While that's downloading, what I'd recommend is pulling up Internet Explorer. And again, this will be sequenced nice and neat within the gist. You'll go to this link here, and there'll be instructions within that gist. To go to rufus.akeo.ie and download the Rufus tool. You'll go down here, download, and just select this link here, Rufus 3.1. Okay, download that and hit save. That should save directly to your download folder. Again, I've already done this before, so I'm going to save that. And I will pop back on here within the next 5 minutes. I don't want this to run. And go from there. So bear with me. I'll pop back up in a few minutes. All right, folks, picking up where you left off. After you downloaded that Rufus tool, again, I'll pull it up one more time. Just download, go to download Rufus tool, type it in. Type. Man, I can't type right now. Okay, I'll go to that site there, Rufus. Download that tool. Remember, go down here, scroll down, and you'll be right here. Download Rufus 3.1. Okay, there you go. There you have it. Rufus 3.1 download. Okay. After that, you'll pull up Rufus. Okay. Open that app, and you'll select the device, new volume E, which was for me the 32 gigabyte drive we had already formatted, but the Rufus tool should go ahead and do a quick format for everybody. I'm going to go ahead and select the ISO image that we downloaded. So I downloaded that Windows 10 ISO file. I downloaded it into the download folder. So I'm going to select that. It's in Windows 10. There it is within the download folder. Okay, that's the ISO file, approximately 4 gigabytes. Open. Okay. Leave all of these other formats here. Default, partition scheme, GPT, leave that all it's fine, FAT32, okay. You can do this. This might take a little bit more time, but it will ensure a solid burn and no interruption. If you, from that drop-down menu, advanced format options, if you select check device for bad blocks, one pass, you can do that. It probably will take you some time though. It might take up to an hour, I don't know. Take a little bit longer time. But this, if you just want to do a clean format, which I've done, I've already tested this, it'll probably take less than 5 minutes to burn that image. onto the USB drive with no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. It'll destroy all the device, like I said, quick format. I'm going to go ahead and pause it here. I don't think it'll take more than 5 minutes, but anyway, let's pause it and I'll pop back on here once it's finished. All right, folks, less than 5 minutes. That's what it took to burn that ISO file onto the USB drive. And again, that was option B. You should be good to go. I've tested that methodology. It worked just fine. So now that you have a few options, again, within Windows and in Mac, you should be ready to go, and this completes the process. I thought it was interesting that this was probably the most challenging part of the overclocking, but I will take one more segment here before we head on downstairs to the Bucephalus mine shaft. So thanks for joining. All right, folks, there you have it. There's more than one way to skin a cat. We downloaded a copy of the Windows 10 from Microsoft directly, the ISO file. We did it with UNetbooten and the terminal in Mac, and then we did it with the MS Media Creation tool and the Rufus tool in Microsoft. So I've got everybody covered. If you're a Windows user or a Mac user, you should be able to get a copy of Windows 10 onto a thumb drive. Surprisingly, gone are the days of being able to easily plop in a DVD and reinstall a fresh copy of Windows onto your Windows device. It's a little bit trickier nowadays, but anyway, I got everyone covered. A little bit of a hurdle to get started on overclocking, but I wanted to make sure that I had everyone covered, both Mac users and Windows users. Anyone who really wanted to get started in mining, I would recommend learning how to overclock, and I will teach you how to do that with the mining guide for Ethereum. So let's go ahead and head down to the mining shaft. Grab your thumb drive. And then I would recommend, after we load Microsoft onto the hard drive, we're gonna clean this hard drive off, and we're gonna install Windows onto this hard drive. What you can do after this, after I finish the Part 3 tutorial, you can go back and look at Bucephalus Mine Part 2 and load EthOS onto that 3.0, which I'd recommend, the 3.0 thumb drive, whether it's 16 gigabyte or 32 gigabyte. EthOS is only 4 gigabytes, so you could get away with a 16 gigabyte, but I would recommend a USB 3.0 flash drive to do that. So anyway, let's go ahead, let's go downstairs and get started in the Bucephalus mine shaft for overclocking. All right, folks, let's go ahead and do it up down here at the Bucephalus mine. I've shut down all my miners, all 7 of them that were operating. Gets a little bit hot and loud down here, especially when all of them are blowing and going, but I only had 7 of them, and it's the temperature has been reduced down from 92 degrees about 10 minutes ago. Now it's at 84.6 degrees. So, and that's with 2 HVACs blowing and going as well. So, yeah, it gets pretty hot here in the summer, but anyway, it's worth it. And the temperature is manageable when you have only 7 of these going on. So, anyway, let's do a quick recap or overview of what the next part of this tutorial will be. So, I'll go over exactly what's plugged in where, and then I will switch over to the rear of the miner here. I'll show you exactly what connections you need in order to get started with the Windows install, and then I'll sit you all shotgun with me on the DSLR. We'll look at the EthOS mega hash rates to establish a benchmark. I think these right out of the box come out about 22 mega hashes a second. So that'll establish the benchmark, and hopefully we can get up to 28. We'll see what we can do here. But then we will proceed with the Windows install. Again, that will be shotgun on the DSLR, so bear with me. And then once we have Windows installed, I should be able to screencast with ScreenFlick, but we'll see. So buckle up. let's get started with the first part of the review here. So I go over this pretty extensively in Bucephalus Mind Part 2, so just please review that for the SSD connection here. That's the hard drive we're going to be installing Windows to, okay? Remember the SATA cable goes in, it's connected there. SATA cable connection, and then there's the motherboard connection, okay? That's what's going to contain or where we're going to install Windows. Next, I will come sit you all around here in the back side here, and I'll show you the other connections necessary to proceed with the install. So, enjoy. Folks, before we proceed with the Windows install, let's go ahead and boot up the rig one more time, assuming you successfully completed Bucephalus Mind Part 2, and you can basically restart your own rig and access EthOS. So again, at this point, that's where you should be. You should be able to turn on your miner rig and access EthOS. We're going to establish those mega hash rate benchmarks first before we proceed with the Windows install. So I'm turning on the rig now. The welcome screen should come in view here. There we go. We got 8. Okay, perfect. 8 GPUs ready to go. And what I'm going to do next here is pull up the command for sudo ethos-overclock to get the miner rig started. Then I'm going to type in show miner. But first we'll try to zoom in with the terminal screen. Maybe I'll get a better view. Okay, so what I'm going to do here first, I'm going to right click and I'm going to select desktops, desktop 2. You don't have to do this, I'm just doing this to get a better view for everybody. Let's see if I can zoom in one more time. I got a wide angle lens for this, so this might not be the best view or format for everybody. I'm trying to get that in focus. Okay, I think that's the best we're going to do right now. Or maybe we'll. Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to get better focus for that, but anyway, I'm going to hit sudo ethos-overclock, and then I'm going to type in show miner. Okay, so right now it looks like we're getting about 25 mega hash a second, so I'm hoping like 25.18. Let's see. I'll try to focus this one more time. But that's the terminal output within EthOS, so it's not going to get any better than this wide angle lens, but you'll see here in a moment. Looks like 25, 26 mega hashes a second as these fire up. So we'll see what happens here, okay? So that's what we're looking at. It looks like each of these will, out of the box, between 24, the highest one out of there is 27 or 28. So again, I've already looked at this up on Nanopool. And right now, the highest this will get about 148 megahashes a second I've seen on average. So let's see if we can, let's see where we can get a little bit higher on this. With 25, 28, there we go. So anyway, let's go ahead and transition to the next segment here, and that will be within the miner rig BIOS, and we'll start with the Windows install. So let's go ahead. Okay, folks, at this point you should be ready to go. We've got the hard drive, the SSD hard drive connected to one of the SATA onboard connections. We got one of the UEFI ports containing the USB hard drive. Again, simply stick that USB hard drive. We burn the ISO, the Windows ISO file. Just stick it into one of the USB ports on the motherboard, and then go ahead and fire it up. So I'm going to do that right now. And then I'm going to continue to hit the F2 key to get back in the BIOS where we've been before if you've been following along with Bucephalus Mind Part 1 and 2. I'm hitting the F2 key right now. And we should be in the BIOS. Okay, so at this point, again, just to confirm, go to boot. And we've got the, again, UEFI port that's containing our Windows ISO file we burned. It's on the SanDisk Cruiser. I'm going to select partition 1, because that's where that Windows file boot is. And then I'm going to select, for boot option 2, I'm going to make sure that the Kingston hard drive, that SSD hard drive we had used before in previous tutorials, I'm going to select that. And again, I would go ahead and wipe that Kingston SSD hard drive for FAT32. And I'm sorry, not for FAT32, for MS-DOS. So it will be a smooth install for the Windows. So anyway, I'm going to hit exit after this. Again, just make sure boot option 1, UEFI, it's SanDisk, Cruiser 1.2 partition 1. It'll probably be a different designation or name if you're not using the SanDisk. And then again, SATA 3, 2, wherever your SSD hard drive is plugged into, make sure that's option 2. Then I'm going to hit exit, and then I'll hit save changes and exit. And this should load up for that Windows prompt screen, the boot install. Your Windows 10 file key, wherever you have that, make sure you have that nearby. I'll put a couple of links or clarifications with that the gist to provide more instructions on where to get one of those Windows 10 license keys. You're going to need that for the next step. Okay, so it's loading. Alright, so if you can see here, you probably can't or have a hard time, but I'm trying to zoom in as much as I can. But it says language to install. Select English, then time and currency format English. I'm going to go ahead and hit keyboard or input US. And again, you're welcome to change those according to your location. I'm going to hit install now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type in my Windows license key. I'm going to turn the camera away momentarily, just so you don't see my license key. I don't want anyone ripping me off. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to enter it in. It's hard for me to see, that's why I'm typing so slow. Get the lights off for this tutorial. Okay, so I correctly entered in the license key, and here's the screen now. So now I'm going to go ahead and accept the terms. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to go ahead and hit, I think I'm going to try and hit custom install, just to make sure I specify what I really want to do here. So it says Windows can't be installed. You might encounter this error. It says Windows can't be installed on drive 0 partition 1, show details. If that's the case, go ahead and hit delete. And it says the partition might contain important files or applications from your computer manufacturer. If you delete this partition, any data stored on it will be lost. I'm almost like, okay. And then I'm going to hit next. So if you go ahead and hit delete, if you encounter that flag or that error when you select your drive 0, if you didn't encounter that error, or if you do encounter that error, either way, if you select delete first, and then hit next, you'll be good to go. So I'm gonna hit next. And now it's beginning the install. So once this is complete, and I'll stay with everyone here until we get this finished, I think I'm gonna be able to fire up screen flick, and you won't see my beautiful pretty mug or face, but you will see the screen flick recording the tutorial from here on out. So anyway, I'll go ahead and sit shotgun with everybody here until this finishes up. I think it could take up to 30 minutes, maybe more, but anyway, we'll see. For now, stick around. If you can hear some of the ambient sound there, I've got two 8 GPU miners on. One's within earshot of me, it's within 3 feet of me. And you can hear the other one down, it's also about 20 feet away from me. So you can hear the noise, they get noisy, and I only have 2 of them on right now. And I've got a total of, how many do I have now? 11 down here, so it gets a little loud. In fact, since this is taking such a long time, I might stop it here and then pick up at the next action prompt. So just let that first part of the install commence, and then I'll pick up where I left off after that. So you'll see me in the next transition here momentarily. Okay, so as I said before in the previous transition, after that first round of install with Windows, the Windows bootloader, it'll restart here automatically, and you should see this screen. So let's see what happens next. This could take up to 5 minutes. I'll probably restart again. And remember, I've got the HDMI to DVI cable connected right now. I don't have it connected to any of the GPUs yet, but eventually we will disconnect that from the motherboard and then put it in one of the GPUs and put that in the main PCIe port. You'll see it's a longer slot, but when we get to it, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. All right, so I'm going to finish off this. I'm in the United States. I'm going to select the United States, hit yes. Is this the right keyboard layout? Yes. US. Want to add? No.
right, so I'm going to go ahead and use one of my other accounts here. I'm going to use my Skype account for this. And I'm going to turn the camera away as I here. And I'll return the camera back on screen. I'm going to enter in my password after I use one of my MSN credentials there. I've entered in the wrong password. Let's see. I don't think I did, so I'm going to hit just link your phone and PC. I'm going to bring it back on screen here with me. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. Make Cortana your personal assistant, no. Choose privacy settings. Let me see, I might disable most of these. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to disable all of these because when we get through the rest of the mining guide, you'll see that we disable a lot of Microsoft features on there that get in the way of the mining. If you decide to stay with doing a dual miner Claymore within Windows, but the idea here is to use Windows just to overclock, and then we'll switch back to EthOS. So after we log into Windows here, the idea will be using the DSLR here, and we'll use screen flick. I'm hoping I can just connect that again, just my microphone, and use that, but anyway, one way or another we'll figure it out here. Let's let this load. Let's say it says your PC ran into a problem and needs to restart. We're just collecting some error info and then we'll restart it for you. So if that happens to occur, just let it restart here. It's 50% complete. But it should load up just fine afterwards. Let's see. So it's ready to log in here. So after I log in, as most of you probably can do, you know how to log into your Windows screen. I'm going to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to end it here on the DSLR, and in the next transition, you'll see me on screen flick. You won't see the little side window again because there's no camera on this onboard here with the rig. I want to keep it simple. So again, we'll just see the screen recording and screen flick. So I'll catch you in a minute.
Alright folks, if you're with me right now, congratulations, you've successfully installed Windows 10 on your mining rig. And what I'm going to do now is instruct you, or at least show you how to take care of a few housekeeping items, one of which is to begin with checking for updates within Windows. So go to the Windows search bar, okay, and then type in Command S if the search bar doesn't come up, or Windows S, the Windows key, then type in check for updates. And click that. I've already done this several times and it prompted me to restart, but assuming you successfully install Windows, it will require about 4 to 5 updates released by Windows to get the Windows 10 version up to date, and you're going to want to do that. Again, I already did this to take care of the restarts that would interrupt this screencast, so again, we're going to go from there. So that's what I plan to do for this screencast series in Bucephalous Mind Part 3. We'll take care of one slide and then I'll transition into another set. So as you can see within the Ethereum mining guide, you'll pull this link up here, which I provided in the gist for Bucephalous Mind Part 3, and you'll go ahead and scroll down to 4.4 Optimizing Windows, and that's where that check for updates begin. After that, assuming that you've restarted your rig and you're ready to go, we're going to pick up where I left off with the rest of the series to configure Windows for dual mining with Claymore and strapping the cards to overclock and to increase or at least optimize our hash rates, which were established at a benchmark of about 28 megahash a second for these RX 580s, and then we'll go from there. So again, pull this up, and one thing I would actually advise everyone to do is download the Chrome browser. I seem to have a lot less problems downloading some of these files through Chrome instead of the Internet Explorer with Windows. So download a copy of Google Chrome as well, and then you'll pull up this link. And then, like I said, you'll go through the updates within Windows, and you'll go from there. So again, the first thing that's required is downloading the .NET offline installer, and you're going to keep that USB drive that contains the Windows 10 bootloader. It will contain the file necessary for this offline installer. So you go to this link here, okay, and you'll download the .NET Framework offline installer for Windows. You'll download that into your downloads folder. You'll retrieve it, okay. You'll unzip it, and you'll go from there, okay. And again, I've already done this, but so it might we might encounter an interruption or something. You'll click that installer, and let's see if it pulls up the application. It's sluggish right now. Exit out of that. Okay, it's a smart screen, so I'm going to run that. It should pop up with an application window here. I don't know why that's popping up. Okay, yeah. And if for whatever reason it's sluggish, click on that the Windows Defender icon below that was flashing and hit yes. Okay, and now it should bring up the .NET Framework Installer app. So that USB file that contains the bootloader that we installed Windows with, you can see here, I'm going to click on this PC. That's on drive D, as you can see. Okay, so in my case it's drive D. I'm going to go ahead and select the installation media. I'm going to select D, and it'll say source XSS bound. I'm going to hit install. Okay, and this should take a few minutes. Again, I've already done this, so it already did this for me. I'm ready to go. It might take you about 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm going to press and continue and exit out of it. And then it did, this .NET Framework 3.5 should be installed on your system. So good to go. Again, that'll probably take you closer to 2 or 3 minutes. I've already done that and taken care of it for the sake of ease. So anyway, I'm going to exit out of this. And then we're going to pull up 4.2, which is the Windows 10 registry tweaks for the mining.bat file. You'll click on this link, Windows 10 registry tweaks for mining.bat. It'll point you over to Mega Upload. You'll download the file. And again, I've already done this before. See, it's downloading. And I select download. And I'm going to pull it up within my downloads folder. Keep it. Pull it up. Okay. And as you can see here, Windows tweaks for mining, I believe that's it. Okay. So what I'm going to do here on this is I'm going to select
We're gonna open it, but we're gonna run it as the administrator. Okay. And I'm gonna select yes on every single one of these prompts. And after this, this will require me to restart the rig. So I will end this segment here. We'll go per segment. I'll end these slides or transitions as 4.2, and I'll say, okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and transition into 4.3. I got to end this slide here because a restart's required. Then I'll pick up where I left off. I can't continue the screencast without interrupting restarts or the other way around. So anyway, yes, 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 why? And again, you might encounter a hang up here with this. It might take a few minutes to execute some of these. And as you can see, once everything is applied, it'll ask to restart the rig. So it might take a few minutes to execute some of these. You see it's processing there. Disable OneDrive, yes. Blocking, yes. Okay, finish nice mining, press a key to exit. Okay, so this will require me to start the rig now. I'm going to go ahead and press a key to exit, and I'm going to end this 4.2. We'll end 4.2, and then the next transition, you'll see me picking up where we left off for 4.3. So stand by, folks. Thank you. All right, folks, picking up after 4.2, restart the rig, and you should be at 4.3 now. So what we'll do here, we're going to go ahead and run, and type in services.msc, so the page will respond. So anyway, I'm going to hit the Windows key S. I'm going to type in run, enter that. And then I'm going to type in services.msc. Okay, now as instructed in the Ethereum mining guide, let me open this up just a little bit. We're going to search for Windows Update. I think that's, scroll down, right down here. Windows Update, and click Stop. Right click and hit Stop. Okay, it should be good. Next, select disabled on startup type. So let's see if we can find that. Let's see here what we're doing here. Right click that now, and then we're going to do this, select disabled. Okay, let's start with type, apply. We're going to restart it again here, and I will hit apply, and okay, and then I will restart the rig and join everyone again in the next transition for 4.4. Okay. So after we ran 4.3, it's instructing us to do it again and make sure that this is disabled. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Windows key, S, type in services.msc, and then we'll scroll down to Windows Update. Right click that, hit Properties, and then you can see Startup Type, it's disabled, and it's good to go. So as we've closed that up, 4.3. So let's move on to 4.4, increase the virtual memory. Open up, search, and type in this PC, right click on it, and choose property. So I've already had the icon, the shortcut up here, so I'm just going to do that. It's already here, but if you were to do that, you can go ahead and just hit like it's instructed. Windows key S, and then type in this PC. So you can do that as well. Anyway, I'm just going to hit right click properties. Okay. I'm going to click on advanced settings. Okay. And then on advanced tab where it says performance, click on settings. So we're on the advanced tab. I'm going to click on settings. Okay. And then click the advanced tab. The advanced tab here. And then, let's see, at the bottom you will see virtual memory. Click on change. So you can see the virtual memory is right here, change. Okay. And let's see here. Uncheck automatically manage paging file size for all drives. So I'm going to uncheck that. And then I'm going to select custom size here. Okay. And let's see here. Depending on how many GPUs we have to increase the virtual memory in general, for each GPU we'll need 3 gigabytes of virtual memory. So I think I've got 8 on here. Let's see if that's right on this build. Yeah. So the initial size, it's 2,000 megabytes times GPU count. So in this case, 12,000 megabytes for 6, 24,000 for 12. So again, in my case, I've got 8 GPUs in this rig. So that's what is that there? 16,000. So that's what I would do, and hit that here, custom size. The initial size here is 16,000. The maximum size, of course, is 3,000 times 8, and that's 24,000. Okay, so there we go there. Click set, OK, and apply. I'm going to click on set, OK. I don't know why there's isn't not allowed to do that. Try that one more time. Custom size, I've got that there. Set, OK, apply. I don't know why I can't apply there. Anyway, that should apply, but I'm not sure why that didn't appear. Let's try that one more time. Right click properties, advanced system settings, advanced performance, advanced virtual memory. Okay, so it looks like it's affected regardless if it's not requiring you to hit apply. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, OK, and then we're going to restart the rig, and I'll pick up where we left off once again for 4.5. Okay, so after restarting the rig from 4.4, let's go ahead and check to make sure that process affected. So I'm going to go ahead and hit right-click PC, hit Properties, okay. I'm going to select Advanced System Settings, okay, and then Performance Settings, and then Advanced tab within Performance Options. I'm going to click on the Virtual Memory change, and then okay, so it did affect 16,000, 24,000. We're good to go. I hit Set one more time to make sure everything happened. Okay, good. All right, so that's good to go. Let's proceed with 4.5. So again, I'm just checking to make sure that 4.4 did indeed affect. I had already restarted the rig, so now I'm ready to proceed with 4.5. Power plan and options. Open up search and type in power options. So again, that's the Windows key S. Type in power options. Okay, and we're going to click on show additional plans. Let's see here. I'm assuming in this case it's going to be additional power settings. Okay, and then let's see here. We're going to select the high performance plan here. Let me see here. You can customize it. Show additional plans. I'm going to select high performance, and I'm going to say change plan settings. Okay. Let's go ahead and do turn off display, never. Okay. Put sleep, never. Okay. Let's see. Click advanced. Click change advanced power settings and look for PCI Express. Okay. And then let's see here. Scroll down. PCI Express. There it is. Link power state management, I believe. Yes. I want to set this to off, and it appears to already be off. Make sure it is set to off. Usually it is. Okay. And we're ready to go. So, okay. Then we're going to save changes. Okay. And we are ready to go. So I'm going to exit out of this, and again I will restart the rig and proceed with 0.5 GPU drivers. This is where we start where we begin strapping the cards. So hang on tight, we're ready to go. Alright folks, looks, after the last restart, we should be ready for point 5, which is downloading a tool called Display Driver Uninstaller. And what that essentially does is wipe the stock drivers installed by the Windows Updater. When we did that with Check for Updates, the Windows service automatically installed stock drivers for the Radeon RX 580 series. And to clarify exactly what I'm talking about, I'll right-click on this PC and go to Properties. And then I'll go to the Device Manager. And then I will select the Display Adapters drop-down icon. And then it should identify 8 GPUs or 6 GPUs if your miner rig is configured for 6 or 8. There should be 8 icons in my case that should have shed Radeon RX 580 series. But I've already done the DDU this walkthrough just to make sure I'm ready and prepared with you all for this screencast. So what we're going to do is again wipe those that stock Radeon RX 580 series, and then when you run this Display Driver Uninstaller, it should appear to be like this within the display adapters here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and walk through the DDU. So I'm going to go down to the Windows download, the download mirror West Coast. Let's select that. Then I'm going to download that. It's going to download into my download folder. And then I'm going to extract that to a folder I already created on the desktop called DDU. You would simply just right-click and create a folder like so. Just like that. And in my case, I call it DDU. You can name it whatever you want. But I'm going to run the executable here. I'm going to extract all the files into that folder I was talking about, the DDU folder that I created on my desktop. Then I have to run it again, I believe, within that folder, and then it should be ready. Okay, we'll pull up that folder. Okay, then you'll select that Display Driver Uninstaller, run that file. Yes, and the application window should appear. So, okay. DDU has detected that you are not in safe mode. Just go ahead and disregard that, hit OK. So what you'll do is you'll click Clean and Restart. And I'm going to end the tutorial in a moment here because I need to make sure I save the screencast before it shuts down. But you're going to click this button, and then it will run. The Display Driver Uninstaller will automatically run. Uninstall those stock drivers, like I said, and then it will be ready to restart. It'll automatically restart your computer, and then we'll pick up where we left off in the next transition here. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here as it will automatically shut down.
Okay, before the next system restart to download and install the Adrenaline drivers from the AMD website, what I want to do is prepare the mining board to have only one GPU ready for install. Again, that's recommended. We have to do this piecemeal, so you have to do it one at a time. You connect one motherboard, and then you install the driver one GPU at a time. So I'm going to cycle through the first few of them, and then I will assume that everyone can sort of pick up where I left off after the second transition. But let's go ahead and connect any one of the GPUs, ideally probably the one from the left, starting from the left logically, the first one from the left. But anyway, I'm selecting the fourth one from the left, so it's in view on the camera. But again, I would advise you to start with the one from the furthest from the left, left to right. It's most logical. And plus, you won't get confused on which driver's been updated and which one hasn't. So select the GPU, and then connect only one of those PCIe Express connections on the first PCIe Express port. I will zoom in with. You should be following along, at least know where that is. Again, that's the first PCIe port from the left. So I'm going to connect that, and when I fire up the mining rig, it will only read one of those GPUs. And I'll show everyone exactly what I'm talking about on the next boot. But one thing I would like to clarify once more. So after we've installed all of the, or we've updated every single GPU with the Adrenaline driver, what you'll do is we'll go back into the BIOS, we'll disable the PCIe onboard graphics card, which is feeding every screencast up until this point, right there. And then we'll use a HDMI cable and we'll simply connect it to one of the GPUs and connect that to the monitor. That's just a clarification. See what I'm talking about here? You connect that HDMI cable and then you connect that to your monitor, and then you should be able to see what's going on with your monitor. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that before we transition to download the Adrenaline drivers from the AMD website. So let's go into the next transition, back on the desktop.
Okay, so now what we're ready to do is verify that we correctly installed that Radeon Adrenaline driver onto that one GPU. So I restarted the rig, and now I'm going to go to Right, click on this PC, then click on Properties. I go to Device Manager, and then once again I'll go to Display Adapters, and boom, Radeon RX 580. So we've correctly installed the Adrenaline driver onto that one GPU. So then what we'll do next is, in the next transition, we'll restart the rig, but before we restart the rig, go ahead and connect every single GPU into the motherboard, the PCIe Express ports within the motherboard. Connect all the GPUs, and then fire up the rig, and then we should see 6 or 8, depending on your build. I should see 8 GPUs within the display adapters section of the device manager. So again, let's transition into the next series. Alright folks, after the last restart, we should be ready for point 5, which is downloading a tool called Display Driver Uninstaller. And what that essentially does is wipe the stock drivers installed by the Windows Updater. When we did that with Check for Updates, the Windows service automatically installed stock drivers for the Radeon RX 580 series. And to clarify exactly what I'm talking about, I'll right click on this PC and go to Properties. And then I'll go to the Device Manager. And then I will select the Display Adapters drop-down icon. And then it should identify 8 GPUs or 6 GPUs if your miner rig is configured for 6 or 8. There should be 8 icons in my case that should have shed Radeon RX 580 series. But I've already done the DDU this walkthrough just to make sure I'm ready and prepared with you all for this screencast. So what we're going to do is again wipe those that stock Radeon RX 580 series, and then when you run this Display Driver Uninstaller, it should appear to be like this within the display adapters here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and walk through the DDU. So I'm going to go down to the Windows download, the download near West Coast. Let's select that. Then I'm going to download that. It's going to download into my download folder. And then I'm going to extract that to a folder I already created on the desktop called DDU. You would simply just right click and create a folder like so. Just like that. And in my case I call it DDU. You can name it whatever you want. But I'm going to run the executable here and extract all the files into that folder I was talking about, the DDU folder that I created on my desktop. Then I have to run it again, I believe, within that folder, and then it should be ready. Okay, we'll pull up that folder. Okay, then you'll select that Display Driver Uninstaller, run that file. Yes, and the application window should appear. So, okay. DDU is detected that you are not in safe mode. Just go ahead and disregard that, hit OK. So what you'll do is you'll click Clean and Restart. And I'm going to end the tutorial in a moment here because I need to make sure I save the screencast before it shuts down. But you're going to click this button, and then it will run. The Display Driver Uninstaller will automatically run. Uninstall those stock drivers, like I said, and then it will be ready to restart. It'll automatically restart your computer, and then we'll pick up where we left off in the next transition here. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here as it will automatically shut down. Okay, folks,
previous transition, we had verified that we had correctly installed and updated the GPU with the Adrenaline driver. So in the previous transition, I instructed everyone to connect all GPUs into the motherboard and then verify that all GPUs had been correctly updated with the Adrenaline driver. So let's go ahead and right-click on Properties, and then go to Device Manager, and then go to Display Adapters, and we should see 8 Radeon RX 580 series cards there displayed within Display Adapters. So again, we had correctly done so. We had installed and updated every GPU with the Adrenaline driver. So I'm going to exit out of this, and then within the Ethereum mining guide, if you scroll down to the bottom of 5, it's instructing us that we have to set each one of these GPUs from, I guess, gaming to compute from graphics. So what you'll do is you'll hit the Windows key S. You don't see it within the drop-down menu over here. Then type in AMD settings, and then go to is it gaming or system? Yeah, you'll hit gaming and then global settings, and then you should see 8 tabs appear here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 graphics cards. You'll need to do the following 8 times for each graphics card, because it's going to prompt you to restart. So I'm going to assume that if you can follow me along for 1, you can do the rest of them on your own. So let's just do the 1. What it's saying here is to go down to the GPU workload. I'm going to select Compute. Okay. It says you must restart Radeon settings to apply your changes. You want to restart now. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and end the screencast here, and then it'll pop back on again, and I'll show everyone what needs to be done for a second time, and then after that, I will appear for the 8th time. We'll go from 2 to 8, because I'm assuming you can do the next 6 on your own or 4 on your own, whichever build you kind of have there. So anyway, I'll end it here, and then I'll transition again on the next restart. Okay, so I had to restart my mining rig for whatever reason. That AMD app froze on me, so I had to restart. So in any case, if that happens, just simply go to this PC, and then go to, let's see here, C, AMD, Win10, and setup.exe. And I'm going to hit yes, and that should launch the AMD installer once again. Accept and install. Okay. And as you can see, there's instructions within the Ethereum mining at the beginning of the install process. Go to Custom instead of Express, and only select AMD display driver and AMD settings during the install. Skip the install of Relive because we won't need it. So I'm going to select Custom Install. And then again, as it said, at the beginning of the install process, go to Custom instead of Express, and only select AMD display driver. So I'm going to deselect everything else. It said, and only select AMD display driver and AMD settings. So only those two. I'm going to install those two only. I'm going to select install. So after we install this, it will prompt us to restart the PC, and then or the rig, and then we should say Radeon RX 580 within that PC device manager display adapters. But let's go ahead and let this install. I don't want to get ahead of the install here. Okay, now it looks like it's almost ready. Once this is finished, we'll restart the rig, and again, we'll pull up the device manager within this PC. So let's let this cycle through. It's almost finished, it says. I hit skip. Okay, so it's been installed. So I will end this transition, and then we'll reboot, and then go to this PC and pull up the device manager. So let's go ahead. Okay, in the previous transition, I had prepared the mining board to only connect one GPU for the Radeon Adrenalin driver install. And as you can see, we can verify that by going to this PC, right-clicking Properties, selecting the Device Manager, and then clicking on Display Adapters from the drop-down there. And as you can see, there's only one GPU connected, and then there's the other onboard graphics card that is feeding this display right now. But as you can, if you recall, that Microsoft Basic Adapter, we had wiped every single one of those GPUs with the DDU tool, and it displayed Microsoft Basic Display Adapter afterwards. So again, I know that that's the GPU that we need to install for the Radeon Adrenalin Edition driver. So go ahead, the next thing we're going to do is go down to that, again, that's point 5 within the mining guide. Click on that Radeon Software Adrenalin Edition, and then you'll be directed over to this website by AMD. You'll select graphics, and then you'll select Radeon 500 series, and then Radeon RX 500, and then Radeon RX 580. And again, that's assuming you had purchased the RX 580s as I had suggested in the Bucephalus Mine parts list. Go ahead and hit Submit, and that should prompt the download. We're going to select Windows 10 64-bit edition, and we're going to download this edition, the one that was released 8.17.18. So it's going to download. That should take, I don't know, it's like 15 seconds here. I'll pull up the downloads folder. Should be a few more seconds, and then we'll unzip this and run it. I'm going to exit out of that window while that's pulling up. And this should take, I don't know, a couple minutes, but I'm going to sit through it with everyone. And as you can see, these the Ethereum mining guide is pretty detailed with instructions here. If we scroll down, it walks you through exactly what you need to do. But again, this might take a few minutes to unpack. It's like the security. Okay, yeah, so it's prompting me that the Windows Defender was prompting me to unpack it there. I'm going to go ahead and select Install. Go ahead and exit out of that downloads folder as well while this installs. accept and install. And it should detect that one GPU we've connected. I'm going to select Express Install. Actually, let me make sure I'm doing this right. It might be custom install. Let's see. Does it allow me to click? All right, what we can do if there's a problem, what we can do is exit out of that. I'm going to close it and bring it up again. Command S, AMD. Should be in the drop-down menu here as well, if that's a problem. Let's pull it up in the applications desktop and see this PC. C, AMD. Done that part, right? It's not the one. Well, we might need to restart it. So let me do that. Let me restart the Windows, and then we'll pick it up from there. And then it should display in this tray over here. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap this segment up here. As you can see, I've already set the GPU workload to compute on the preceding 7 cards here. You can take a look here. It's the 7th card. You can see I already switched that to compute in the GPU workload section. So on the 8th card, wrapping this up. Should take a few seconds to load. Again, I'm going to switch this to compute. And again, I've already done this 7 times or 8 times now. And as you can see, it's really tedious, but that's the last time we got to do it, and it wraps it up there. All right, folks, now that we've finished updating the AMD Radeon settings and we changed them from graphics to computing, or basically gaming mode to mining mode, we're now ready for modifying the BIOS. And we're going to begin by downloading this tool here called GPU-Z. I've already downloaded it, but simply go to this link, download it. It's pretty basic. Again, just extract it and install. And you'll pull it up here. It's called the Tech Power Up app. And as you can see here, will identify what memory type are on the cards. On mine, on these RX 580s, these XFX RX 580s, all the memory types are Hynix, and I've gone through the drop-down menu here, and they're all Hynix here. But again, I would advise doing this piecemeal, and I'm going to restart this one more time before we proceed with the GPU BIOS mod section, which that's where the mining guide's prompting us to go to next. It'll actually walk through what we need to do to, I guess, modify the BIOS properly, and that's going to be downloading another tool called Polaris 1.67. But anyway, going back to this, again, I'm going to begin by, on the next transition, restarting, and then I'm going to unplug all of the RX 580 cards here, so we'll just have one plugged into the motherboard, so we can pinpoint exactly which BIOS ROM we want to identify. But anyway, that's that. So I would create a folder on your desktop called BIOS, and then you're going to be using the Tech Power Up tool. And then again, let's go ahead and download the Polaris tool right now. So again, all you would do is you would download that after you download the Tech Power Up tool, and you restarted your computer, and you should only see one graphics card plugged into your motherboard, as I've not done yet, but I will in the next segment. You would then go to download the Polaris 1.67. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just download this with y'all. Extract to the desktop, and then in the next transition, I'll restart my computer and pick up where I left off from there. So I'm going to download it. There we go. Extract this into a folder I already created on the desktop, which is called Polaris. Okay, select it there. Let's extract it there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a shortcut and then stick that on the desktop. And then I will simply put this in the program files. Okay, so in the next transition, I'll pick up where I left off. I'll have the Tech Power app open, and then I will also have the Polaris 1.67 app open. So what we're going to do is we're going to export the BIOS, and I'm going to save it in this BIOS folder. So anyway, we'll pick up where we left off. Hang tight. I'll be back in the next transition. All right, folks, again, picking up where I left off in the preceding transition, as I instructed, you're going to want to unplug all GPUs but one, preferably the one on the left, starting from the furthest one on the left. That'll be the first GPU we're going to modify here. And then in order to, I guess, clarify that, again, you'll go to the drop-down menu, fire up Tech Power Up, that app, and then go to the drop-down menu down here. And then as you can see, again, I only have one GPU plugged into the board. So what we're going to do here, we're going to export the original BIOS, I guess, on this card. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go ahead, and I've already created two new folders, two subfolders on my desktop. One's called Original BIOS, and one's going to be called Updated. So what we do here, we're going to click on, again, we've identified that we're only working with one GPU, and it's the Hynix. And as you can see there, the memory type. And I'm going to click this button right here, okay? I'm going to save that BIOS. I'm going to save that file, again, to the original BIOS folder. And this is where you want to save the original BIOS of that GPU. Save it to something on the desktop, a folder called Original BIOS, like I did up here. So again, I'm going to go to Desktop. I'm going to click on Original. Then I'm going to call this 1. That's the first GPU. I'm just going to call it 1. 1 Original is going to be the name of it. 1-Original. Again, that would be the first GPU on the left, and it's the original BIOS. Save. Okay. So then, after that, as I instructed before, picking up where it left off, you're going to download a tool called the Polaris BIOS Editor. So you do that, you can go to the double-click on the shortcut right there, as I created in the previous transition. And again, so this is what we do here. We're now going to pull up that original BIOS file. Oops, I closed it. We're going to pull up that original BIOS file. I'm going to open BIOS, okay? Go to Desktop, and then I'm going to go to Original BIOS, select that ROM, the original ROM, open it, okay? And then I'm going to click, let me see here, one time, that's right, I'm going to click on the one-click time patching. So click that. Okay. Okay. And now I'm going to save that. It's going to be the updated ROM. So I'm going to hit Desktop, Updated. I'm going to select 1-Updated. That'll be the name of that file. Okay. So essentially what we're doing with strapping the cards, we're optimizing them for the best possible hash rates. Okay, as you can see, I already proceeded with this instruction. I saved the BIOS. Now I'm going to continue where we left off in the Ethereum mining guide. So I go there, and then we're going to download a tool called ATI Flash, ATI Flash. Download that tool. Download it. Okay, and then I'm going to select this file here, I believe. Let me create another folder on here. Again, I try to do this just for the sake of organization here. Call it ATI Flash. Okay. Oops. One more time. Download that. Pardon me. Extract all. Desktop. Okay. So now we download that file. All right. And as you can see with this tool, you put the custom BIOS over your current one. So we made a backup as we did with the original BIOS, okay? And what we're going to do here, all right, we're going to exit out of this. Make sure I've got this now. So I'm going to exit out just to make sure I've got the right path down. We can now exit out of the Polaris editor as well, and the Tech Power Up editor, okay? And there that is right there, the exact Flash tool. Okay, so that's where we want to be. So what we're going to do then is copy the updated BIOS. One update, okay, I'm going to copy it, okay, go there, and then right click and then paste. Alright, so now that we have the ATI Flash tool open, we're going to hit the Command S key, okay, and then I'm going to try to find, let's see here, what does it say, the command prompt, and right click, run as administrator, select yes. Alright, and then we're going to change the directory, and this is not Linux, so I just want to make sure I got the right path down. Copy the path to ATI Flash. So this is the path, this is how we find it. I copy it, okay, copy the path, and then I believe we can just do CD, that's right, and then Control V, and okay, there's the correct path that I'm in, that it should be in. Alright, so the next steps here, according to the guide, alright, we're going to type in the following commands, the following syntax. We're going to run the program ATI Flash -F -P -0, and the name of the file is should be, let me see what I call it again, just make sure. Again, remember it's oneupdated.rom. This is where we begin flashing the card. Alright, so it's going to be, it should be it. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Let's let this run for a little bit. And there we go. We just need to restart the system to complete the BIOS update. So there. I'm going to do this one more time. In the next transition, we'll do 2 cards. But you get the point. I mean, this is a tedious thing. I don't need to go over this 8 times, but I think you'll get it after the second time. So anyway, let's stop here, and I'll do it one more time with the second card. And then again, you would do that with the preceding 6 or 4, whatever you're doing, whatever build 6 or 8, what have you. So anyway, let's stop it here and transition to do it one more time in the next segment. Alright folks, remember, repetition is the mother of all skill. So I'm going to do this one more time with you. As I've said before, let's go ahead and pull up that Tech Power Up tool. And as you can see, I plugged in the second GPU, but only the second one. And it's plugged into the first port on the motherboard, the first PCIe port. And again, it's the second card, but I only have one of them plugged in. The other 7 are unplugged. One of them has already been modified. I've already modified one of the BIOS in the previous
transition, but I'm going to do it again with you all. So we're going to take a look here. Again, that's the original BIOS, the Hynix memory type there. We're going to export that ROM. I'm going to save it to the file. I'm going to save it to that original BIOS subfolder that we created in the previous transition. Okay, but I'm going to call this one to original. It's going to be the second GPU we're modifying, but it's going to be the second original ROM. And we do this just in case to create a backup file in case we flash the cards incorrectly or something goes wrong. So we're going to save that. All right, we've saved that BIOS original, and now I'm going to fire up the Polaris BIOS editor tool. And then I'm going to open that original file, and then we'll go to this desktop original. Type in 2, click 2, hit open. I'm going to click on one-click timing patch, then OK, and OK. And then we're going to save that to the updated BIOS folder. Make sure you save that in the updated BIOS folder. Save. I'm going to call it the file name 2updated ROM. OK. And that's saved. So let's just double check and make sure that's saved. Good. Okay, so then remember, we copy that file. We're going to copy it over to the path over at that ATI flash folder. And again, I explained this in the previous transition. But go ahead and drop that in there. Paste. Okay. And now, again, go back to that mining guide. Scroll down to this section where the instructions for the ATI flash are explained. But essentially, all you do is hit Windows S. Then we hit Command Prompt. Type in Command Prompt. Remember, right-click that. We're going to run that as the administrator. Okay. And then hit Yes. And then remember, we copy the path of where that updated ATI flash file is. So again, copy that path. Just double-click that folder. Go there. Go to the Explorer view. Double-click that path, or I'm sorry, highlight that path. Copy and paste it. Okay, and then go to the command prompt. I don't know why let's see here. I clicked on the wrong window, pardon me, there it is. And hit CD, type CD, and then copy and paste that path. Remember, that's Control V. All right, and then we simply run these commands here. So again, that's ATI flash. Type in ATI flash, like so. Okay. -F, -P, -0, and the name of that file, once again, just to clarify, it was 2-updated.rom. 2-updated.rom. And here we go. Let's flash the card. Should take about 30 seconds, 30, 60 seconds. And there we go. All we have to do is restart. Now, what I would do is we've done one card and we've just done the second card. I'd put a little post-it note or something you can do to designate that the cards that have been flashed already, that they've already been flashed and then you're moving on to the next one on the rig, just so you don't confuse the cards. You'll move on to the next one. So again, that's the second card we've flashed on this rig. So I have 6 more. You might have 4 more depending on your build. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably do one more in the next transition, and then I'll pick up where we left off from there. So let's do it one more time, just for the sake of clarification. Thank you. All right, folks, if you're still with me, and you didn't get it after the first 2 times, the 3rd time should be a charm. So let's go ahead and do it up here. I'm going to pull up the last card that I finished modifying here. And then again, that's the Radeon RX 580. Make sure you select that within the drop-down menu, okay? And then you've got the Tech Power Up tool launched, and then you go ahead and save the BIOS here. I'm going to save that file to the original subfolder I created within the desktop. I'm going to call it 8 original because I've already done the preceding 7 cards, and this is the last card that I'm going to do for my
myself here. So I'm going to save that. Okay. Then I'm going to pull up the Polaris BIOS editor. Okay. And then I'm going to open that original BIOS that we saved. Go to desktop, original BIOS, select the original, open. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the one-time click timing patch. You'll notice that the timing straps will adjust after we click that. So let's go ahead and click. So you see the change right there. So we're going to go ahead and save this. Save it as the new one within the desktop in the updated BIOS. Okay. Call it 8 updated BIOS. Okay. And then I'll exit out of the BIOS editor there. I'll pull up that updated BIOS file. I'll then copy that file, the updated BIOS file, a ROM file now. Copy and paste that. Stick that in the ATI flash folder. Right click, paste. Okay. Then hit Command S, type in command prompt. Make sure you right click and run that as administrator. Okay. And then we're going to copy and paste that path into the command prompt. But first we're going to type in CD and then control paste that path so we're in there. Okay. And then just to recap, we're going to type in ATI flash, which is the name of the execution file. Okay, dash F forces the flash of the GPU. Dash P0 is the GPU at position 0 that will be flashed. And again, the name of the file, that's the updated ROM. It's 8-updated.rom, since this is the last file I will be flashing. Updated.rom. And again, this should take about 30 seconds. I'm going to hit enter. And boom, we're ready to go. We're going to restart the rig. And in the next transition, I will begin the point, let's see here. The next section will be configuring the GPU miner and downloading Claymore. So again, that's when we get to establish the benchmark within Windows. I had already established that within EthOS at about 25 megahashes a second. It's the average when I had 28. So we'll see what we can do in Windows. And again, if you were intimidated by the Linux EthOS, if you have Windows or you're more comfortable operating Windows, you can still mine in Windows. But again, I'm just more comfortable doing it on the command line and operating within a Linux-based system. So anyway, I'll catch you in the next transition on 7 and 8 within the Ethereum mining guide. Stay tuned. All right, folks, before we begin the Claymore download, let's just do a quick recap one more time. Again, out of the box, these RX 580s were hashing at 25.5 megahashes a second. We then installed the Adrenaline driver and time strapped the cards. We got them to 28.5 megahashes a second within EthOS. And then I overclocked them in EthOS, and we went from a reported hash rate of 226 megahashes a second all the way up to 245 megahashes a second, which ends up being about a little over 30.5 megahashes a second per card. So essentially what we end up doing after we strap the cards and overclock them, we end up adding another 1.5 GPUs to the rig. So we're essentially maxing this out for total efficiency here. So let's go ahead and download Claymore Miner for Windows. And I'm just doing this for folks that aren't really comfortable on the command line or any sort of Linux-based system. Windows perhaps a little more approachable for most folks. So let's go ahead and try that. We'll download Claymore Miner for Windows. But what I want to caution everybody is there are some issues with it. If you look at Twitter, even they're reporting that they're having troubles with Ethereum mining on Claymore within Windows. So that's just one word of caution for you. But let's go ahead and try it out anyway. I'm going to download it. Download Claymore Miner from the Nanopool website. Alternatively, you can get it from GitHub. I've tried both versions, and I'm only getting 200.1 megahashes a second within Windows. So that's just a word of caution for everybody. But let's go ahead and do it. So download. I'm going to extract the file folder to one I'll create on the desktop as I've done before in previous examples. I'm just going to call it Claymore. Okay. Set it over here. Okay. I click on the Claymore downloader here. We'll extract that into a folder on the desktop, the one I just created. Okay, subfolder. Okay, extract. Okay, exit out of there, and then we would just again, you would pull up that Claymore file, then the folder we created on the desktop. You'd scroll down to the default batch file. So what you would do here is you'd copy this file. I'm just doing this for the sake of example. You'd paste it there. You'd then right-click, hit edit, and you'll see the default params there. There's the nano pool right there, the address, and that would be your wallet address, your worker name, and your email. And this, again, will all be detailed in the gist provided with this screencast. I'm going to exit out of that and just pretend that I have already edited this file in here, but I've already saved it in a thumb drive. So what I'm simply going to do, in this case, I'm just going to drag and drop it. So I'm dragging and dropping to the desktop. That would be the file that you would edit with me or edit alongside this screencast. Just go ahead and put your Ethereum wallet address there, your worker name there, and then your email. That's the default batch file here. So I'm just going to drag and drop it in there, and I'm going to replace the file destination. And then we're simply going to fire it up. I'm going to double click it. Just picking up all 8 cards, good. And again, I like to stress that I did have some problems with this earlier this year. I did have one rig mining with Windows, and it was a little more problematic than the Linux-based systems like with EthOS. So just a word of caution. If you decide to mine within Windows, even with the Windows modifications we do within the Ethereum mining guide, you scroll down, I take care of this in the video, the screencast, but if you look at optimizing Windows, even with those modifications, I experienced a Windows Defender update that, even though it was disabled, it still disrupted my entire system. So anyway, here's where we're at. See, as I said before, 2 of these cards will only hash at half the hashing power here, while the rest of them hash at 30 megahash a second. And again, Nanopool, they're even reporting that there are some problems with it. It could just be a build problem. This does happen from time to time upon releases, even within EthOS. So just a word of caution here. I'm probably going to end this series podcast or series screencast here. Again, that would be finishing at point. Let's see here, at point 8, just because of the Claymore modding problems in Windows. Unless I can investigate further and find out the issue, but I'm assuming there's a problem here because again, I'm only getting 200 megahash a second within Windows Claymore, but I'm getting 245 megahash a second in EthOS. So there's either something wrong with my Windows environment, which I'm pretty sure there's not, or some other underlying issue I'm unaware of, but I'm a pretty experienced developer, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. But anyway, I'm not going to end it here. I will have at least one more transition before we decide to overclock or stop it here at 0.8 or 0.9 overclocking undervolting within Windows. So you'll see me one more transition, but again, I want to get everybody acquainted with mining in Windows. There you go. All right, folks, let's go ahead and wrap the Ethereum mining guide up. We're going to get into overclocking within Windows, and this is relatively straightforward to do within EthOS. And as I explained before, there's definitely something going on with this release of Windows Claymore, and it is the most recent one. I've tried previous versions that I hadn't had experienced any issues with in the past, but again, I'm not really sure what's going on. I followed this mining guide to a T, so it could be something with Claymore miner. And again, Nanopool is pointing us over to you have troubles with Ethereum mining with Claymore, switch to FinMiner. So it could be a combination of that environment, Windows environment build plus Claymore with Nanopool and mining for Ethereum could cause some problems. So let's just go ahead and do it. Without further ado, let's just kind of go ahead through how to overclock with the overdrive tool in Windows. So what you'll want to do is download this tool, overdrive tool, and let's go ahead and do that right now first. It'll point us over here. Where is that link? There it is. You'll download that tool, all right, and
going to select that 7-zip application to extract that into a new folder onto the desktop. And I go over how to use 7-zip within Bucephalous Mind Part 1 or Part 2, so you might want to check those if you don't understand what's going on. So I'm just going to call this overdrive. And we will open up 7-zip, select extract that overdrive tool within the desktop folder I've just created on the desktop. All right, there it is. Should be ready to go. Yeah, just going to select it on the desktop and go from there. Okay, so let's put that over there. Let's pull up the overdrive tool, and then I will flip over to that section within the Ethereum mining guide. Alrighty. So what you'll notice here is, and again, I'm kind of going backwards because I want to make sure this makes sense for everybody. It made more sense to me doing this backwards, so within that section. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's look at the sections here. So there are two fields we need to pay attention to, and this is the GPU overclocking and undervolting and the memory conditions here. I'm going to simplify things and just go through this right now. So what we'll do here is you'll see that we have 8 GPUs displayed here. You might have 6. We're going to create individual profiles specified according to the parameters listed in the Ethereum mining guide. So let's try that. Pull up the first GPU within the drop-down menu there, 1. And then I'm going to create a new profile. I'm going to call it GPU1. This is important. Make sure it's called GPU1, all one string like that. Hit OK. All right. And then we're going to double click on these fields so we can bypass them. We only want to be able to execute P7. And this is it right here. Do 1150, 1100, or 850. It's the undervolt. Okay. And then disable these fields within memory fields. Select 1800 and 900. All right. First thing we're going to do after this is hit apply and then save. One thing I wanted to make sure we do is make sure that's 60. The target temperature should be 60. Again, hit apply, save if we get to change something. So again, if you did this correctly, you double click those fields, you shouldn't be able to access those fields within there, those groups, so P7 and all those. So anyway, let's go to create the next one. 2. I'm going to create a new profile. Again, make sure this one's called GPU2. Okay. Double click out of those fields within the GPU overclocking and underclocking frames. And make sure we only have P7 available and that it will display as 1115, 1150, and 850. Same deal for memory. 1800, 900, target temperature 60, and apply and save. Oops, I selected the wrong GPU there. If you hit the wrong one, it's no big deal. Just make sure you hit apply and save. Alright. And again, make sure those fields match. 1150, 850, 1800, 1850, 60, apply, and save. So if you screw up, it's no big deal. Just do it again. Alright, so I'm going to go for the drop down menu and select the third GPU. I'm going to create a new profile, call this GPU3. Alright, make sure it's, again, matches 1150, 850, 1800, 900, target temperature 60. Okay, apply and save. Let's create a new one. GPU4. Actually, let me just do this first. This is the sequence. Now I'm going to select a new one called GPU4. Alright, 1150, 850,
save. Pick up profile for the 5th GPU. Double click these. And again, some of these may be unclicked already, or uneditable or editable, but in any case, make sure they correspond like I'm doing right now. Target temperature 60. Okay. New profile. GPU 5. Alright. Apply. And save. 6. Create a new profile. GPU 7. 50. 1800. 850. 1900. Target temperature 60. Apply and save. Alright, last one. Apply and save. Alright, so let's take a look and see all the profiles to make sure they correspond. Double checking, everything looks good. Alright, so randomly checking. Okay, so apply and save. So we're good on all of these. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is create a batch file. It's going to be called overclock.bat, and you can see the instructions up here. Where are we? Alright, so again, just hit it new, text file, call it overclock, and then the extension will be .bat for batch. And this is what we do. Oh, pardon me. We hit right click and edit, and then we structure the batch file according to the following syntax here. So it's overdrive. Again, make sure the case matches. Overdrive nt tool dot exe dash r1 dash p1 GPU 1. Okay, we would do it again for the second GPU. R2 dash P2 code GPU 2. Alright. So you can see it resets GPU 1, the default settings. P1 does that, profile to that GPU 1. So let me just finish this off and I'll show you how that pertains to what we just did in that overdrive tool. So I'm going to copy and paste these. I'm going to paste it 3 more times. So I have 8 GPUs. You might just have to do it 3 more times. You'll see what's going on here in a second. So let's do it again. And this one's going to be 3 for profile 3, for GPU 3, 4 for profile 4, for GPU 4. Let's do it again. 2 more. 4, 5, profile 5, for GPU 5. If you're following along, you see what's happening. that's what these commands will correspond to. Seven, 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 8, 8, 8. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to drag and drop it back into the overdrive tool folder. Okay, and remember, I'm just going to pull up that tool one more time. If you remember here, so those profiles were there. Remember, that's the profiles we created. So that batch file pertains to those, or corresponds to those profiles we created. I didn't want to start that. I didn't mean to, but it doesn't really matter. It's just nothing's going. So anyway, that's what you have there. So that makes sense. So next thing you want to do, and again, it's a little bit out of order, but it made more sense to me doing it this way, is download the WinFo tool. And again, if you're at this point, I'm going to assume you know how to extract that and open the folder. But let's go ahead and fire that up. Sensors only mode, run. This will take a few seconds. Close. So we can see what we've done here, 1800, 1150. Those are that memory, the overclocking, undervolting for the GPU, and the memory card conditions are already implemented. So let's fire up the Claymore miner. And just to establish some benchmarks, we'll see what's going on here. See what our mega hash rate is. I don't think it's going to get more than 200, 220. I'm not sure, again, what's going on with the Claymore miner, but we're doing the best we can with what we got for Windows right now. And again, if you look back at my hash rates within Nanopool, there's something going on with the Claymore miner within Windows, because the reported hash rates without overclocking in EthOS, it's 228 megahashes a second. That's the reported hash rate. So I know there's nothing going on there. It's something wrong with Windows configuration of the environment here, or Claymore, or the combination of all three, as again specified by Nanopool. Look. See there, you can say if you're having troubles with Ethereum mining on Claymore, switch to FinMiner. But again, FinMiner is for NVIDIA cards only, so I'd have to go over this in perhaps another series about how we can most efficiently or better mine with Windows. So we got a GPU error on one of these. It's going to restart. But again, you can see those are the memory conditions. Okay. So what we're going to do next, in the next transition, I'm going to call this part 2 of 9. We're going to optimize those conditions, and we're going to use those profiles. We're going to use the Hynix memory, and I've identified these are all Hynix memory cards within EthOS. If you fire up EthOS, and you should notice that in the far right column in the top left corner, there will be a memory card designation. So we'll try that next. Again, so this is the established benchmark here. For one of the reasons, one of the GPUs kicked off were about 168. So, and again, you can see that our overclocking affected, because if you look at all the GPU conditions, now 1800 and 1150. But in the next transition, part 9b, the next transition, I'll show you how we change those profiles within the overdrive tool. It will be different here. It will reflect what's going on right here. See, it'll be 2250. We're going to assign 2250 and 850, 1200 and 850 for the GPU core and the memory conditions. So it'll look different here momentarily. So stay tuned for the next transition, folks. Thank you. All right. So again, we've successfully overclocked, and I can tell by the GPU core overclocking and undervolting conditions in the memory. If you look here, we have these corresponding 2250 and 1200. And again, those are the Hynix memory, the optimized parameters for the GPU overclocking tool. And we did that by double-clicking the 4, that's GPU 1. Here's GPU 2, that clearly affected GPU 3 and GPU 4. Looks like that's underclocking still. I don't know why it's not corresponding, but the rest of these are 1250, 1200. So again, I will review this once again on how we do this. You go to the overdrive tool, and then you would do here is, I've already done this already, but since you probably haven't updated yet, you would select the first drop down menu, go to 1, GPU profile 1, and then you would update the optimized settings. Again, mine were Hynix memory, and I identified that with an ethos, top left corner, far right, and I got to a hash, pardon me, I got to 1200. We set that to 1200 on the GPU overclock, undervolting 850, 2250, and 850. All right, then I applied and saved. I did that for every single card on here, including 5. You can see it corresponds there. So that's why that 5th card isn't. See, there was in that GPU 5, there was an error, as I said, 2100. So let's just do this. Let's make sure we save that profile correctly. All right, and I am going to set that again to 2250, and we're going to set that to 850. Yeah, that's the Hynix parameters here. Pardon me, 1200 and 850. And then same deal there. It'll be 2250 and 850. 850. Target temperature is 60. And then I'm going to apply and save. So if this doesn't immediately affect for GPU 5, let's see. And it did. There it is, see, 2250 and 1200. Now let's check and see if GPU 6 is the same way. Okay, for some reason that hasn't affected yet either, but you get the point here. So what you do here, let's just check the rest of these, 2250 and 1200. Good. So all of these appear to be displayed. I don't know why GPU 8's also check GPU 8. We can also reset those by clicking on overclock.batch. That batch file should run the new overclocking parameters. So let's see. So again, somewhat of an increase there, but again, if you look at what Nanopool saying, evidently there are some issues within that environment. Either it's a combination of mining Ethereum with Windows on Nanopool, but if you have trouble mining with Ethereum mining on Claymore, switch to FinMiner, and again, you can only really use FinMiner if you have NVIDIA cards. We're using Radeon cards, so we can't use FinMiner. So there could be another miner we can take a look at, but this is going to conclude part 3 of the series. And again, you can follow along there and create an automated script to run these on a startup. We can go on there, but you can pick up on that where you left off on 10. It's really straightforward to do. I assume if you're at this point, you understand what's going on. And again, it has to be some issue, a combination of issues with Nanopool, Windows, and Ethereum, because if you look at what I'm mining with an ethos, it's a stable 228 megahash per second without overclocking. So here, as you can see, experimenting with this tutorial,
it jumps off, gets off. So anyway, I would advise everybody to strap the cards. To strap the cards up. To update, install the Adrenaline drivers, strap the cards in Windows, and after that, use those cards in ETHOS to mine Ethereum. If you want to mine something else, there are other miners which maybe I'll plan on discussing in other podcasts. But anyway, that'll conclude this series, and I'll jump off into one more bon voyage. Thank you. All right, folks, that about wraps it up. I just gave you about 2.5 hours of crypto goodness in Bucephalus Mine Part 3, and that concludes the series screencast. In Part 1, we built a miner. In Part 2, we configured an Ethereum wallet and installed ETHOS, establishing a benchmark of 25.5 megahash per second for the XFX RX 580 GPU right out of the box. And right now, this retails at about $250. That's about half price from where this was priced at earlier this year. In Part 3, this series, we bootloaded and installed Windows for both Mac OS and Windows users with the UNetbootin and Rufus tools. We downloaded and installed the AMD Radeon Adrenaline drivers and then strapped the cards for optimal hash rates. We then overclocked and updated the XFX RX 580 GPU, again, against the previously established benchmark of 25.5 megahashes a second. After we strapped the cards and updated the drivers, we averaged at about 28.5 megahashes a second. And then with overclocking, we got up to about 32 megahashes per second. So that would be about 228 megahashes a second and 242 megahashes per second, respectively. Then we installed Claymore Miner for Windows. And again, per Nanopool, there were some issues resulting probably from a combination of factors. Mining for Ethereum only in Claymore with Windows. And again, although we experienced some difficulty mining with Claymore on Windows, we were able to review overclocking in Windows with the Overdrive In tool and the HWin04 tool. I'd also like to take this opportunity to send off a pre-launch of my new weekly podcast, Saddle Up with Bucephalus Dev. We're going to discuss the latest and greatest in crypto and what I've been doing for the last 5 years of my life ever since I left my job at PNC Bank. I'll begin that series next week discussing my dramatic saga. It has been one hell of a ride, trailblazing on the highest horse in the land. There are also very few well-rounded crypto thought leaders like myself out there who have it covered from the front end with philosophy and design all the way back to the back end of the stack, including engineering and data science. So buckle up, folks. Get ready to see every corner together. And again, that concludes the series. I really appreciate you all, and I hope you really learned something listening to this screencast, and look forward to that podcast coming out next week. Thanks again, and we can see every corner together.